Let's go.
Yeah. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever time zone you're in. Welcome back to Sip and Talk. I'm Sunny.
Morning, everyone. I'm Joe.
So I have to tell you about this incredibly frustrating moment I had the other day. I was reorganizing my kitchen, setting up, a couple of new gadgets, and this massive pop-up just takes over my phone. It's for my new smart trash can.
Wait, hold on. You bought a Wi-Fi-enabled trash can.
Look, I like a clean kitchen, okay? Don't judge me.
Hey, no judgment.
But the pop-up was for an updated privacy policy, and it was just dense, endless legalese. And the bottom line, if you actually read it, was basically, if you do not agree to let us collect data on your daily routine, including like exact timestamps of when you open your fridge, when you throw things away, how you literally move around your kitchen, you are totally locked out of the smart connectivity features.
Wow. So they just bricked the features you paid for.
Exactly. I just stood there holding my phone thinking, this isn't a multiple choice question. It's precision digital extortion. You are essentially trading your absolute total privacy, your behavioral data, just for the basic functionality of a bag holder. It's like they use convenience to mask this absolute control.
Welcome to the daily reality of the digital Leviathan, right? But it's actually really funny you bring up that specific dynamic, trading your privacy and autonomy for just a tiny bit of utility.
Yeah.
Because if you scale that exact kitchen annoyance up to a massive national level, you are basically looking at the core of the biggest geopolitical debate happening in Washington right now. I mean, it is the exact operating logic behind the entire China threat conversation.
Okay, that is a massive jump, going from my kitchen garbage to global geopolitics.
I know it sounds crazy, but the architecture of control is completely identical. World leaders are finally realizing that this model, using extreme convenience, massive economic dividends, and slick tech infrastructure to package a system of absolute control, it's expanded way beyond their domestic borders. It's woven into the global supply chain now.
Right.
And for all the Sip and Talkers listening right now, we are stepping entirely away from the emotional ideological shouting matches you always see on cable news. We are not doing the partisan yelling today.
Definitely not. We're strictly looking at hard international data, historical records, and the actual legislation, because we really want to understand the true operating logic of the Chinese Communist Party, how a massive regime utilizes economic benefits as essentially sheer survival tactics.
Yeah, and there is this incredibly romantic, very Silicon Valley-style geopolitical theory that you hear circulating a lot in Western policy circles.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right. The idea is that our secret weapon isn't like building more military drones or enforcing stricter trade tariffs. The ultimate strategy, supposedly, is just bypassing the government entirely to befriend the citizens.
The whole open source truth idea.
Exactly. Just give them the truth. Give them unrestricted internet access, raw historical data, and the system will naturally just correct itself from the inside out. Because the people are fundamentally good, right?
Yeah. And distinguishing between the regime and the people is a very standard diplomatic strategy. You hear it in almost every single State Department briefing. But the reality of actually executing that strategy is incredibly harsh. You can't just drop facts onto a population and expect this instant democratic awakening.
Because they have a firewall.
It's more than a firewall. The regime has built an impenetrable narrative defense system. If I can borrow from your tech world for a second, it's like trying to convince a massive user base that their software is broken when the developer keeps aggressively rewriting the patch notes.
Oh, that's a great analogy.
Right. Like if the servers crash and wipe everyone's data, the company officially labels it a planned upgrade to improve user resilience. How do you reason with users when their entire historical reality is actively being patched and overwritten?
You really can't.
We see this exact strategy in how the state handles what historians call the 4 great historical rewrites. Let's look at the data on the Great Famine from 1959 to 1961. Officially, the state history textbooks package this era as 3 years of natural disasters. They blame bad weather. They blame sudden Soviet debt repayments.
Right, framing it as an external problem.
Exactly. It's framed as a brief hardship that the state bravely navigated.
But I mean, if you look at demographers and global historians, the reality is like 15 to 45 million non-natural deaths. which is just a staggering number to even comprehend.
It really is.
And the data clearly shows it was driven almost entirely by the radical agricultural policies of the Great Leap Forward. You know, local officials were forced to over-report their grain yields just to meet these impossible quotas, so the state requisitioned all the food, and they literally left the farmers to starve. It was pure human error and policy failure, completely scrubbed from the official record.
And then you move forward to 1989, Tiananmen Square. The official framing there is just a brief political disturbance that was successfully resolved. And today, the erasure isn't just passive. It is an active, highly aggressive algorithm.
Yeah, it's not just a banned search term on Google.
No, not at all. If you try to post the number 8964 on an app like WeChat, the system's image and text recognition algorithms intercept that message before it even reaches the recipient.
Wait, so it doesn't even show up on the other person's phone?
No. The sender thinks it went through, and the receiver just sees absolutely nothing. It's a military suppression of citizens seeking democracy that has been systematically deleted from the domestic consciousness.
And we don't even have to go back decades to see this OS running. Look at the zero COVID policy from 2020 to 2022. The official state packaging right now, today, is that it was a life-first triumph, the ultimate victory of a superior governance system.
Right, they really pushed that narrative hard.
But the reality on the ground was 3 years of extreme secondary disasters. I mean, we saw people locked in apartments with literally welded doors. We saw those tragic transport crashes where citizens were being moved to forced quarantine camps in the middle of the night.
And all of that was followed by an abrupt, completely unprepared reopening.
Yeah.
Hospitals were overrun, basic fever medications were completely sold out nationwide, and we saw a tsunami of excess mortality, particularly among the elderly. Yet, death certificates were systematically altered. Doctors were actively instructed not to list COVID-19 as the cause of respiratory failure. The state literally rewrote the data in real time to maintain the narrative of a flawless victory.
Which perfectly parallels the fourth major rewrite we have to talk about, which is the Xinjiang camps, from 2017 to the present. The official diplomatic line states these are simply vocational training centers designed to combat extremism and teach job skills.
Right, just friendly schools.
Exactly. Yet, we have leaked internal documents like that massive cache published by the New York Times and comprehensive reports from the UN Human Rights Office. And they detail the systemic detention and cultural erasure of over 1 million Muslims.
So if an entire population's historical reality is being actively curated by this machinery, throwing raw truth at them from the outside doesn't fix the problem. Psychologically, it triggers massive cognitive dissonance.
Because it threatens their worldview.
Right. If you have been educated your entire life to believe the system is your ultimate protector, the parent who puts food on the table, and someone hands you evidence of the famine or the Xinjiang camps, your defense mechanism immediately kicks in. You assume the evidence is a malicious foreign lie designed to destabilize your home.
But here's the thing that always gets me. Why go through this much effort? I mean, the sheer financial cost of maintaining this digital firewall, the armies of human sensors, the AI development required to intercept text messages in real time, it is astronomical. Why would a government spend billions upon billions to rewrite history?
It all comes down to a core political science concept that basically explains every single action the regime takes. It's called regime survival.
Okay.
In academic circles, they also call it performance legitimacy. Think of the state like a monopolistic tech platform where you literally cannot delete your account.
Like my trash can company.
Exactly like the trash can. When the government provides a booming economy or state-of-the-art high-speed rail networks or incredibly convenient mobile payment systems, they are not doing it out of altruism. They aren't doing it because they just want users to be happy. That convenience is simply the price the regime pays for user retention.
It's a pure transaction. The implicit social contract is basically we provide economic growth, physical safety, and the convenience of paying for everything with your face, and in exchange, you surrender all your political rights and accept absolute oversight.
And the infrastructure they build is just a massive retention strategy. Look at the national budget allocations. This is wild. For a long time, China's domestic security budget, the money spent on police, surveillance cameras, grid management, the Great Firewall, basically maintaining internal stability, has actively exceeded their national defense budget.
Wait, really? Their internal budget is higher than their military budget?
Yes. A global nuclear superpower spends more money guarding against its own citizens than it does preparing for foreign adversaries.
That is insane.
Yeah.
It's like they are building a state-of-the-art bullet train for you to ride, while simultaneously installing the world's most expensive AI-driven security system to monitor your facial expressions while you sit in your seat.
Exactly.
And whenever public welfare crashes into regime security, the regime always chooses its own survival.
We saw that play out with devastating consequences at the end of the zero-COVID era. The government had the option to import highly effective foreign mRNA vaccines to protect their vulnerable elderly populations before they finally opened up the country.
Right. But they didn't.
No, because doing so would have damaged the carefully crafted nationalist narrative.
Yeah.
It would imply that foreign science was somehow superior to domestic science, and that weakens the perception of the state's omnipotence. So they rejected the foreign vaccines. The narrative of superiority survived, but the citizens suffered the unprotected reopening.
And we see that exact same survival mechanism in the tech sector, too. Just look at what happened to Jack Ma and Alibaba. You have this massive, highly innovative engine creating incredible wealth, jobs, and global prestige. But the second that company grew large enough to potentially challenge state control over consumer data in the financial banking system, the state dismantled it.
They step right in.
Yeah, they would rather have a slower, highly compliant economy than a booming, uncontrollable one.
The survival of the operating system is literally the only metric that matters.
So if our government sees this digital leviathan operating so clearly, what is Washington actually doing about it? Because, I mean, if you look at social media right now, there are these viral rumors claiming the U.S. just passed a law officially declaring the CCP a criminal organization.
Yeah, we need to do a hard fact check on what is actually happening in Congress as of mid-2026, because the internet is constantly blurring the lines between political signaling and binding law.
Oh, for sure.
So the U.S. Senate did pass a significant document. It's called S-Res 444, and it passed unanimously in June 2026. It strongly condemns Xi Jinping and officially refers to the CCP as a transnational criminal organization.
But, and this is the big but, a resolution is essentially just a formal statement of political opinion by the Senate. It does not carry the actual force of law.
Right, it's not binding.
It doesn't instantly enact sanctions. It doesn't give law enforcement the power to arrest people under organized crime statutes. It is a very powerful, highly symbolic letter of condemnation.
But there is actual legislation attempting to make this a real law. Representative Scott Perry introduced H.R. 8760, the Designating the CCP as a Transnational Organized Crime Group Act, in May 2026. This bill would literally apply the RATIO Act, the anti-mafia racketeering laws, to the party itself. But currently, it is just sitting frozen in the House Judiciary Committee.
And here is where the real politic of Washington really comes into play. They often keep these extreme bills frozen in committee on purpose. Think about the diplomatic reality. You cannot negotiate with a legally designated mafia.
You really can't.
If this bill became law, it leaves zero room for diplomatic maneuvering. You can't negotiate climate agreements or de-escalate military tensions in the Taiwan Strait or manage trade relations with a legally defined crime syndicate.
Yeah, it shuts everything down.
Right. Even as we implement our domestic CHIPS Act, that massive legislation designed to cut off advanced semiconductor technology to China while rebuilding our own manufacturing, we still rely on basic diplomatic channels to prevent a total global economic collapse. Keeping the RSU bill in committee sends a massive political signal to voters and to Beijing, but it avoids legally backing the State Department into a corner.
The international community has to tread very carefully. They see the systemic abuses, they want to condemn them, but they are terrified of completely breaking the global diplomatic machinery.
So if international laws aren't immediately stopping this and domestic pushback is instantly crushed by the digital surveillance state, what happens when people are backed into an absolute corner? Like when the digital space is totally closed, what options do people actually have left?
We see the tragic, really heartbreaking answer to that in Tibet. Human rights researchers refer to the oppression operating there as a three-dimensional model. First, you have forced assimilation through the education system. And this isn't just about changing a curriculum. They are actively erasing the Tibetan language and culture by placing children in mandatory state-run boarding schools. Yeah, they are physically severing their ties to their families and their heritage.
And second, you have the total destruction of religious freedom. Monasteries are heavily monitored by police and AI cameras. Loyalty to the state must explicitly supersede any spiritual beliefs whatsoever.
Exactly. And third, the digital leviathan itself. Absolute, unavoidable technological surveillance where even having a photo of the Dalai Lama on your phone can lead to immediate arrest.
It's terrifying.
It is. When a regime takes away your language, restricts your religion, and completely silences your digital voice, the human body becomes the absolute last tool of protest. Since 2009, over 159 Tibetans have resorted to self-immolation.
Which is just, taking their own lives in the most agonizing public way possible, because every other avenue of expression has been criminalized. 159 people.
And it is happening right now, far beyond the borders of Tibet. On July 2nd, 2026, a 52-year-old Tibetan-American named Lobga Rangzin, also known as Lobsang Polden, self-immolated right outside the United Nations headquarters in New York City.
In New York?
Yes. He was living and working in the U.S. as an Uber driver. And he took this extreme step to protest the National Unity and Progress Law, which is this accelerated legal framework for cultural assimilation in Tibet. To feel so deeply unheard, so completely erased that you take that step in the middle of Manhattan, it really highlights the ultimate tragedy of the Leviathan system. When all peaceful verbal avenues are literally welded shut, physical pain becomes the only megaphone left.
It forces us to ask a really difficult question on behalf of anyone listening right now. How does a nation of 1.4 billion people look at what is happening in Xinjiang or the self-immolations in Tibet and just ignore it?
Well, this apparent institutional blindness is not because the public is inherently cold-blooded.
Right.
It is a highly manufactured result driven by three main mechanics. First is the information cocoon. The Great Firewall doesn't just block foreign news sites, it creates a completely closed ecosystem. If a self-immolation happens, it is instantly scrubbed from the domestic internet. You cannot react to what you are structurally prevented from seeing.
And even if a rumor slips through the cracks, you have the second mechanic, which is nationalism.
Exactly.
The education system and state media has spent decades framing these extreme measures in Tibet and Xinjiang as absolutely necessary for national unity. They package the oppression as patriotism, basically convincing the public that these harsh actions are protecting the country from terrorism and foreign interference.
But the third, and perhaps the most powerful mechanic, is cognitive dissonance combined with just raw fear. If an ordinary citizen in a major tech hub acknowledges the horrific reality of what happens in Xinjiang or Tibet, they must simultaneously acknowledge that the regime is capable of doing the exact same thing to them. And that is a terrifying psychological burden to carry.
Yeah, to disbelieve the official story means you have to confront the reality that there is a monster in your own house, and you are totally powerless to stop it.
Right. In a society where your social credit score, your ability to travel on a train, and your access to your bank account are entirely tied to your political compliance, looking the other way isn't just ignorance, it is an active survival tactic.
It's self-preservation.
Yes. If you speak out, you don't just go to jail. Your children are barred from attending good schools. Your parents lose their pensions. The state essentially weaponizes your familial bonds against you.
Which brings us right back to that Silicon Valley theory of bypassing the firewall and befriending the awake citizens with the truth. Throwing the raw truth at someone trapped inside a digital Leviathan is not just a friendly chat. It triggers their deepest psychological defense mechanisms.
It really does.
Or worse, it actually gets them flagged and arrested by the surveillance state. The truth isn't a magic wand that instantly fixes an authoritarian system. It is a long-term weapon in a very complicated war of ideas.
Very well said. And as we wrap up today's discussion, we want to be incredibly clear. Nothing we have discussed today is an attack on any nationality or any group of people. We are objectively analyzing how extreme authoritarian systems operate and the lengths those systems will go to ensure their own survival.
Absolutely.
It's a reminder for all of us to keep thinking critically about the media we consume, the political systems we participate in, and the true cost of the conveniences we accept. And just a quick disclaimer, any economic or geopolitical policies we discuss today are for context, not financial advice.
If you enjoy unpacking these massive, complex topics with us and cutting through all the noise, make sure you subscribe to the Sip and Talk Deep Dive. We love having you here as part of the conversation.
And hey, don't forget to check out our buddy Mickey's YouTube channel, Mickey to Life.
Oh man, his latest travel vlog is wild. He literally ran into a giant jellyfish while swimming in Spain.
Whoa, way!
Yes, it is terrifying. He is so lucky he didn't get hurt. And the footage is absolutely hilarious. You've got to see it. It's the perfect lighthearted palate cleanser after today's heavy discussion.
Definitely go check out his channel.
But to leave you with one final thought to mull over, next time you get a pop-up and click, agree on a privacy policy just to get a smart device to work. Ask yourself, if a simple kitchen appliance demands this much of your personal data, just open a lid. What would a regime demand to let you live your life? We'll catch you next time.